Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and welcome back to the Madrassah, the show where we discuss the reality of the Madrassah in primarily contemporary British society, but I'm sure the content of the shows will relate to other communities in other locations outside of the immediate British location. So, before the break, I attempted to lay a foundation upon which we will use for subsequent shows, inshallah. And I spoke about the content of the shows to come, bi'ithnillah. We'll be looking at issues ranging from, but not solely limited to, child protection within the madrassah, lesson planning, schemes of work within the madrassah, assessment of learning, assessment for learning, formative assessment, summative assessment within the madrassah, health and safety issues within the madrassah, teaching standards within the madrassah, and many more. And to interrogate these realities, we will be having selected guests on the show who are experts in the field which they've been asked to comment on. And by doing so, we hope to provide a resource primarily for teachers who are teaching in the madrassas in the UK and specifically within England. But I'm sure that the content will be transferable outside of the immediate British or UK setting to a variety of communities wherever they find themselves. And we have Shia communities in the Caribbean, in Trinidad and Tobago, a vibrant community there, in Guyana, again in South America, in Suriname, in Haiti, in Pakistan, in India, in Iraq, in Iran, in Nigeria, in Australia, throughout the world. Alhamdulillah, the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt Nabuwah have spread, and via their spreading they have brought with them the reality of Islam with them, and they are in many ways sharing that reality with their brothers and sisters from faiths outside of Islam, remembering that Imam Ali alayhi salam said that either an individual is your brother or sister in faith, or they're your brother and sister in humanity. And we who follow the Ahlul Bayt Nabuwah, we are champions of this. We believe that we have not only a responsibility to our Muslim brothers and sisters, but as a necessity of our belief, as a necessity within the Shia madhab, we have a responsibility of duty to non-Muslims as well, to bring peace, love and healing to the hearts of non-Muslims via our practice of Islam in line with the teachings of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam and the A'imma Athar. So we arrive now at a stage where I'm going to present to you a particular approach to education as it's found within a Muslim approach to education. Now, why do I say Muslim approach to education rather than an Islamic approach to education? Well, Islam proper, I personally believe, can only be had from the Masumin. Whatever the Masum does, Rasul al-A'zam, the A'imma Athar, and Bibi Fatima alayha salam, that is Islam. Whatever we do, that is Muslim practice. And we can try our best to faithfully follow their teachings, but in reality, what they do is Islam as Allah Azza wa Jal wants it, and what we do is Muslim, i.e. that which has been developed within our own individual cultures and societies. The Muslim approach then to education is wide, and there are many schools of thought within the broad heading of Muslim education, but sometimes you'll hear me use the term Islamic education rather than Muslim education. It's just a force of habit, but actually I mean Muslim approaches. However, when we look at the Quran, which is the foundation of our belief, and the Quran being our guide as followers of the Ahlul Bayt an-Nubuwwah, the followers of the Ahlul Bayt an-Nubuwwah are distinguished throughout time for being individuals who cleave, who hold fast to the Quran. This is why they are called Ahlul Quran. From the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt an-Nubuwwah, we are told to hold fast to the Quran. So the best place to go to get some understanding of education as it shows itself within Islam or Muslim approaches is the Quran itself. And here I'd like to take you to Surah Al-Baqarah, which is the second surah of the Quran, having been revealed in Medina. And I want to take you to ayat number 31. Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat number 31. And in this ayah, what we come across is a transference of knowledge. A transference of knowledge from Allah Azza wa Jal to an aspect of His creation. We're told in the Quran that whenever Allah Azza wa Jal wants to bring nobility to an individual, Allah Azza wa Jal gives them knowledge. Okay? And this knowledge, we can say, is transformative. It transforms the individual in a particular manner. It allows the individual to engage with their immediate environment and other environments in a heightened manner. It allows the individual to direct their environment rather than being directed by the environment itself. The other point with regards to this ayat number 31 of Surah Al-Baqarah, with regards to knowledge. And we're using this ayah to understand how knowledge can be played out, how knowledge can be transferred within the Madrassah setting. Another aspect of this ayah is this, that those who are aware of certain teacher speak, certain educational language, will understand the term pedagogy. And I'll be using terms like pedagogy and andragogy and transformative and inclusive, etc. But hopefully I'll be able to explain them as well. Pedagogy traditionally means the learning process being directed by the knowledge holder. That the learning process is directed solely by the teacher themselves. And there is no interaction, there's no questioning, there's no dialogue, it's a monologue which is being delivered. So the teacher is in charge of the process and imparts knowledge to the learner. Sometimes people even use the term information, which you'll see in subsequent programs, I believe has no role within education, the term information. We as teachers, primarily within the Madrassah, are holders of knowledge, and we impart knowledge to our learners. So with regards to this ayah in question, ayat number 31 of Surah Al-Baqarah, and how it relates to our professional practice with in the madrasa as teachers, regardless of how long we have had within the madrasa. Sometimes we hear our fellow colleagues within the madrasa say, well, I'm a volunteer. But with volunteering comes professional practice, comes certain standards which an individual needs to adhere to. So when we present ourselves within the madrasa, we present ourselves as professionals ready to engage in the transference of a transformative body of knowledge to our beautiful learners, male and female, who present themselves to be educated. So pedagogy is usually defined as a process of knowledge transfer or information transfer being directed by the teacher. Now, in ancient Greece, the time period I'm looking at is from Socrates, let's say, to Plato, when the master's slave was ready for school or going to school, the slave would take the satchel or any of the learning resources of the master's child and lead the child to the place of education, to the school. Pedagogy, leading the child. Pedagogy means leading the child, and as such the slave within Athenian society led the child to the place of knowledge, the place of education, where we get the term pedagogy. I prefer to use the term ta'limul adamiyya, the ta'lim, the learning of Adam alayhi salam. And the other term which we'll be using is andragogy. Now, andragogy primarily relates to individuals learning and individual adults learning. And individual adults learning is totally different from individual children learning. And if we're saying, well, what is a child up until 18? What is an adult over 18? So andragogy is more about a dialogue taking place between the teacher and the learner, with both directing the learning and the teaching process. What I prefer to call ta'limul Ibrahimiyya, the ta'lim or the learning or the education of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So let's go to this ayah and see how it informs us with regards to knowledge transfer, transformative knowledge, learning, teaching, as it might take place within the contemporary Shia Madrassah. Ayat number 31, Surah Al-Baqarah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ أَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا, and he taught Adam alayhi salam all the names. ثُمَّ, then, عَرَضَهُمْ عَلَى الْمَلَائِكَةِ, and then presented them to the angels. فَقَالَ أَنْبِئُونِي بِأَسْمَاءِ هَؤُلَاءِ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. And then Allah Azza wa Jal said, فَقَالَ, then Allah Azza wa Jal said, أَنْبِئُونِي, inform me, بِأَسْمَاءِ, with regards to the names, هَؤُلَاءِ, of these individuals, إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ, if you are truthful. Now, what I don't want to get into, although it is important in other discussions, is who the names related to. We know they related to the Ahlul Bayt in Nubuwwah, but this is not the focus of the discussion. The focus of the discussion is how knowledge is transferred and what underpins the transference of knowledge within the Islamic or the Muslim approach. So Adam alayhi salam is singled out as the Khalifa of Allah Azza wa Jal, the Khalifa, the representative of Allah Azza wa Jal, who will represent Allah Azza wa Jal on earth, will carry out Allah Azza wa Jal's orders, Allah Azza wa Jal's commands, Allah Azza wa Jal's directives, and Nabi Adam alayhi salam will serve as a guide to people whom Allah Azza wa Jal has chosen him to guide. Allah Azza wa Jal uses the term wa'allama, and Allah Azza wa Jal taught. So here Allah Azza wa Jal is the first teacher. When Allah Azza wa Jal teaches, and again this relates to our professional practice within the madrasa where we practice our profession as teachers. When Allah Azza wa Jal teaches, that teaching which Allah Azza wa Jal engages in is rooted in a number of realities. The first reality is Allah Azza wa Jal is a teacher who teaches with love. And we see in the ayats from ayat number 31 up until ayat number 35, where it is an extension of the teaching which has taken place. Nothing but love. Nothing but a intense desire for the knowledge which is being transferred to the recipient. And here, this is us now. An intense desire with regards to the knowledge which we are transferring from ourselves to the participant, or to the recipient, sorry, to be taken on by the recipient in a way in which it will enrich the lived life reality of the recipient, not only then, but later on as well. By love, I don't mean romantic love, obviously. By love, I mean the love of the insaniyat, the love of the humanity which the individual student, child, Muslim, Shia child presents to us within the madrasa. When we love the insaniyat, when we love the humanity of that child, we will teach that child in a manner which will enliven that child's heart. The child will come into a realization that the individual who is teaching me is teaching me in a way which enriches my very being. Allah Azza wa Jal, as the first teacher, when teaching Adam alayhi salam, enriches the very being of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ أَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا ثُمَّ عَرَضَهُمْ عَلَى الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Allah Azza wa Jal taught Adam alayhi salam all the names. Now we said the discussion is not on the names. And we know the names are representative of the Ahlul Bayt in Nubuwwah. But here, kullaha, the term kullaha is informative. All of them. Kullaha, all of them. As such, when we teach as teachers within the madrasa, we have to be aware of what the student needs at that very moment in time. Being aware of what our students require asks something of us, and that is we should be aware of our students' personal biographies. We should be aware of the lived life realities of our students outside of the madrasa setting. If we only engage with our learners as they present themselves within the madrasa, personally, I believe we are not performing our task as teachers as we should be. Some individuals will say, well, I'm only there for half an hour, I'm only there for 45 minutes. How can I engage in a dialogue with the learners? With the shortage of time and the demands of the curriculum, of the specification. being delivered, that I have to get them to memorize this, and they need to have an exam in 3 weeks, and there's so many other pressures on me with regards to the curriculum or the syllabus in its delivery. How can I engage them in a discussion about their lives outside of the madrasa? Well, as we will see in subsequent programs, we'll discuss leading curriculum and being led by the curriculum. We'll also discuss educating not only the child in front of us, but educating their children and their grandchildren, in the sense that seeing the child as not only a representative of the community from which they come, which could be our communities, because many of us teach children from the same community from which we hail within a particular madrasa. But seeing also that child as a representative of their children in 20 years, as a representative of their grandchildren. And if we engage in that type of practice, then we will find time, we will find ways of being able to connect with the lived life realities our children have outside of the madrasa. Because the madrasa should be, and I've given this analogy or this example a few times, but it's good to remember, it's good to repeat also. The madrasa is a workshop, as it were, a refit workshop where children come in to be refitted with the parts which have been damaged or bruised throughout the week. Throughout the week, our children spend between 25 and 30 hours at school, and many of these schools are state-run schools, they could be private schools, but nevertheless there are certain values in the school which we do not advocate, and our children are exposed to certain practices which we would find distasteful. Nevertheless, our children are also exposed to certain beliefs and practices which we can champion, which we would readily embrace. And if we want to change the schools our children attend, then we ourselves as parents should involve ourselves in the schools, in the PTAs, etc., that are operated within the school. But nevertheless, the idea is this, that the child is battered and bruised by the rampant secularism which is present within wider society. And the madrasa is a workshop, a refit place where the child comes in for the 4, for the 5, for the 3, for the 1 hour, which it attends the madrasa, and via our teaching, via our interaction with the child, we refit the parts which have been bruised, which have been damaged, and we re-strengthen the child, we re-energize the child, so that the child now goes out as a refitted model, ready to endure, ready to engage proactively with the knocks and the hits and the demands which are in an abundance within contemporary post-Christian, secular British society, so that the child is not passive, the child is active. If we take that approach, we will find time, because we are a teaching faculty wherever we are, which is engaged in a particular type of teaching, which, if you go back to the beginning of the show, it was mentioned, education within Islam has always been predicated upon bringing the learner closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. And as such, our duty as teachers is to bring the child closer to Allah Azza wa Jal via our behavior with the child primarily, and secondly via the knowledge that we give the child. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ أَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. kullaha, knowing what the child requires at that moment in time, asks us to know the personal biography of our learners. And we as professionals within the madrasa, whether we have PGCEs, whether we have a B.Ed, an M.Ed, a doctorate, a DITLs, a PITLs, a CITLs, whatever courses that we have attended, even if we have not attended any courses whatsoever, we are still professionals within the madrasa. We have to know what our learners require. And so that asks something of us. وعلم آدم أسماء كلها ثم عرضهم على الملائكة فقال أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين. So he taught Adam alayhi salam all the names. And then he presented those names to the malaika and asked the angels to inform him of the names. In kuntum sadiqeen, if you are truthful. Now, throughout this discussion, well, I say discussion, throughout the ayats from ayat number 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35, there is no dialogue. There is no question and answer. The teaching method, as it were, that Allah Azza wa Jal employs as the first teacher is what I've called ta'limul adamiyya, that is delivering knowledge to the intended recipient without the intended recipient having the choice to respond. It's all one way. And here the equivalent was pedagogy. But nevertheless, Allah Azza wa Jal is the first teacher, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows the need of the recipient. So Allah Azza wa Jal chooses the right method, the required method at that moment in time to educate the intended recipient. And the best way to educate the intended recipient here, who is Nabi Adam alayhi salam, is via the removal of the process of, or the manner of engaging in dialogue. It is one way, and Adam receives, he understands, and he obeys. If we go to ayat number 33, we miss out ayat number 32 and go to ayat number 33. Allah Azza wa Jal says again, قال يا آدم أنبئهم بأسمائهم فلما أنبأهم بأسمائهم قال ألم أقل لكم إني أعلم الغيب السماوات والأرض وأعلم ما تبدون وما كنتم تكتمون. And Allah Azza wa Jal said, translation, Adam, inform them, أنبئهم, inform them بأسمائهم, of their names. And then Adam alayhi salam informed them of the names. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions, قال ألم أقل لكم, and Allah Azza wa Jalla said, did I not say to you, إني أعلم غيب السماوات والأرض, am I not the more knowing of the ghaib, the hidden, which exists in the samawat and the earth? وأعلم, and I know ما تبدون وما كنتم تكتمون, and I know what you manifest and what you conceal. وقال, he said, وقال, he said, وقال, he said. Constantly Allah Azza wa Jal is saying, Allah Azza wa Jal is saying, there is no jawab, there is no response. In this saying of Allah Azza wa Jal, there is teaching. There is an transference of knowledge from the Alim, the all-knowing, to the one who needs to know. But again, When Allah Azza wa Jal engages in teaching, Allah Azza wa Jal activates a particular paradigm. And that paradigm is rooted, firstly, I mentioned in love. And secondly, I will mention a knowing of the needs of the recipient at that moment in time, because Allah Azza wa Jal knows what the recipient needs. And we as teachers, we have to know the environment from which our children come from. We need to know the personal biography of our children who present themselves within the Muslim educative environment, so that we can tailor the knowledge that we are going to deliver to meet their needs at that moment in time. And when we do that, ikhwan wa akhawat, when we do that, brothers and sisters, we will be able to reach the hearts of our young boys and our young girls like no other individual will be able to. And by reaching their hearts, we will be able to engender in their hearts a love of knowledge, primarily a love of Allah Azza wa Jal, a love of knowledge, a love of themselves, a love of others, and a respect for who they are as individuals. The other ayat I want to introduce you to, moving away from Ta'lim al-Adamiyya, and there's much that can be said here, is the ayat number 260 from the same surah, Surah Al-Baqarah. And this is an ayah which I am arguing represents Ta'limul Ibrahimiyya, but it's an ayah which we are going to look at bi'idhnillah in our next show. And as I'm speaking to teachers, then let me set you an assignment, if I may. Although I'm sure many of you are my elders, please allow me to set you an assignment. Look at this ayah 260, from Surah Al-Baqarah, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّي أَرَنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. Look at the ayat and see what's taking place with regards to, look at it from the aspect of educating, and then compare it and contrast it with the ayat that we looked at, briefly though, ayat number 31 of Surah Al-Baqarah, and see the difference in the styles of educating which Allah Azza wa Jal, as the Alim, the all-knowing, the first teacher, employs, and how we can use these as templates to engage in our teaching. So we've covered quite a bit. Bi'idhnillah, we will meet again in the next show. Before I go, allow me to thank our production team. Allow me also to send condolences to the mu'mineen wa mu'minat on the death of Sheikh Nimar, our new shaheed. Let me also send condolences to those mu'mineen in Nigeria, both from the Muslim community and the non-Muslim communities who suffered at the hands of the Nigerian government. May Allah Azza wa Jal strengthen Sheikh Zaki and his wife and the followers of the truth. And also may Allah Azza wa Jal heal the hearts of those mu'mineen and mu'minat in Trinidad and Tobago who have undergone great hardships with regards to the false accusations which were placed on a brother by the name of Kareem, Brother Kareem, from Trinidad and Tobago. He passed away quite recently in the United States of America in a prison, convicted of a crime which he was totally innocent of. May Allah Azza wa Jal bring healing and peace to the hearts of everybody, Muslim and non-Muslim, and may Allah Azza wa Jal unite us in peace and brotherhood. Let me thank you for watching, and let me thank Allah Azza wa Jal for giving us the ability to produce such a show. Until next time, bi'ithnillah, you've been watching Madrassah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.